This week, we're going to be discussing what browser should Linux users be using and trust. And of course, it's going to be whatever we recommend and suggest is the one.
Of course, there is no other there's no other option except for our options.
We'll let you know in the show. Welcome to Destination Linux, where we discuss the latest news, hot topics, gaming, mobile, and all things open source. My name is Ryan. I'm back. And with me today are the meme lords of podcasting, Jill and Michael.
This is correct. You're not wrong. I do meme a lot, especially if you count dad jokes.
Did you say I meme you're wrong or not wrong? I meme? Is that a dad joke?
I meme.
There?
You're not. I meme what I say.
You're not wrong.
I meme what I say.
Crazy. It's unbelievable.
You
it's
meme what you say.
Michael.
I meme what I say.
Okay.
President.
If Ryan were a meme, what meme would he be? Hugging face.
Oh, that's nobody
like
would
one.
describe me as hugging
Troll face. Troll face.
Michael, really?
What?
Troll face?
I would be
think
the cool sunglasses.
Oh, really? Is that what you would be? I'd be the Rizzler.
Okay, so how are we defining the word meme? Because it sounds like we're talking about emojis, and I think memes is like those random photos of the silly.
Well,
I think memes are just.
meme.
I think memes are like a thing that just exist. Like I think they've come into their own like meming meaning.
Yeah.
So this whole episode's about to be a meme for sure. It's definitely going to be.
I think this whole show is a meme a lot of the times.
This whole show's a meme. We'll also be discussing how a lot of important open source projects just got defunded. That's not nice. That's not a nice headline,
nice.
Michael. Why did you write that?
I didn't. I think you did.
Well, let's get on the road. Let's get the show on the road.
Let's get on the road too.
Yeah, let's get on the road and get this show on the road toward Destination Linux. Our community feedback this week comes from 8-Bit. They go, I wanted to reach out and let you know I thoroughly enjoyed episode 400!
Yay.
Thank you.
I love that. Thank you so much. In lieu of a couple of the topics of conversation, bad games and Crocs, I think now is an appropriate time to share with you a personal project I worked on earlier this year. In July, I submitted an entry to the So Bad It's Good game jam on itch.io.
I love
it was
that
inspired by DL's unwavering passion for Crocs, Rubber Clog Tycoon. I love our community. You've got to be kidding me.
This is awesome.
Somebody spent their time doing this. I love your face, 8-Bit, like so much. It's just a small, silly, cursed meme of a game. Look at that. Man. Whoever writes this show is amazing. But if any of you decide to take a look, I hope we can give you a
wasn't this written by the feedback person?
Yeah, sure
like
was.
I took that and then put that into the you see how that works?
Oh, I see that. You were you were connecting the meme.
Connecting.
Genius.
Good job. Good job.
Connecting the story.
I just didn't have enough gibbets to be able to get those dots connected.
So thanks again for the countless hours of fun you all provide. 8-Bit, thank you for being a listener and part of this community. I think that is so amazing. I've got to go check this game out. I just got back from, but I'm going to be playing Rubber Clog Tycoon. How could you not? It's going to be the top of my list out there. Jill, what do you think about this?
Oh, your Rubber Clog Tycoon 8-Bit is so much fun. I like that he used the GIMP to draw the clogs and all the gibbets shoe charms, and he calls them flurm blibbits in the game.
Shoe charms. The shoe charms. Oh my gosh, I forgot about the stupid shoe charms.
Yeah,
that's what I was saying with the gibbets thing. Yeah, the shoe charms.
Flurm blitz.
Flurm blibbits. I like flurm blibbits.
Yeah, flurm bliblets is great. It's hard to say too. And I'm so happy, 8-Bit, you made a game for the itch.io game jam with inspiration from Destination Linux. That is just so special. Oh my gosh.
That is pretty awesome.
And itch.io, actually, 8-Bit, is one of my all-time favorite indie game sites, and I regularly check out new games on there from game jams. In fact, it's kind of kind of something I do every year that's a little OCD, is I go through all the Game Jam games. So I love them all. But for some reason I missed his. So the Rubber Clog Tycoon.
Yeah,
But it's
I
a
love
great
the fact that they made this game, and I love the fact that it's inspired by our love of the Crocs, or Ryan
Our
specifically,
idiocracy,
Ryan's
really.
love of the Crocs.
Yeah.
And if I was going to rate this game, I give it 10 out of 10 gibbets.
Yes, perfect.
I'm glad
I give it 10 out of 10 flurm blibbits.
Flurm blibbits.
Yeah. I'm really glad that I already had my yearly review at work, because you guys talking about me loving Crocs and stuff would have got me a poor review for sure from my boss, because he listens to this show.
Unless you showed up in Crocs, and then you would have been a commitment to it.
Yeah, because then I'd be like a boss. I'd be like, look,
exactly.
I'm setting the tone of this room with my Crocs that I showed up to work in.
You're going to be a trendsetter at the office with your Crocs.
Aw.
Yeah, that's what Croc people are known as, for sure.
Oh, 8-bit. I also loved it in your Rubber Clog Tycoon game. I love the bossa nova music. You had a musician perform that for your record that for the game, and that was genuinely very beautiful and thematic with the kind of cheeky, humorous game.
What's cheeky about decorating your shoes, Jill?
It just has lots
Why are you insulting Crocs, Jill?
No.
This person put so much time into this game. And
Can you call it cheeky? How dare you? You know? This is a serious thing. It could cure world hunger.
Yeah, well,
do all kinds of things.
if Crocs would donate money for every pair that was sold, then we could cure, world hunger.
If they get a lot of money for plastic shoes, then they become popular. They're so expensive. In fact, Michael bought off-brand versions of Crocs. So,
I think that's true.
Yeah.
I do have off-brand. I forgot what they were called, but I do have off-brand Crocs.
You do.
But not because they're too expensive. It's just because I just didn't care. And also finding Crocs in my size was not easy. And I was like, okay, I found these. It's good enough. Who cares?
Well, listen, for our audience out there, we have our own video game thanks to 8-bit. So go to Rubber Clog Tycoon, and you can not only enjoy the show as a podcast, but you can play the show as a game through Crocs.
They should create like some flurm blibbits that have like our faces that you can put on the Crocs. On the Tycoon.
Oh, yes.
Faces you could put on the Crocs. Great idea, Michael. Maybe it's you can, since it's open source, you can go in there and contribute some images.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, listen, you're not going to beat 8-bit's feedback, but you can try and send your own comments in by going to destinationlinux.net/comments. But unless you're going to make a game for us or music or some big thing now, like, I don't know, I guess your comments.
The bar has been risen. Raised? Risen? Is it which one? Raised.
The bar has been raised. The bar's been raised.
The bar has risen.
The bar has risen, people. Go to destinationlinux.net/comments. Send in your own comments and feedback, or destinationlinux.net/forum. Please send in your positive feedback. If you are sending in positive feedback, you can also talk about other people beside Jill in your positive feedback. So
that's true. I like how you said, please send in your positive feedback.
Yes. We don't want your negative.
Just
if you send your negative feedback,
you can send it to recyclebin@tuxdigital.com.
Recycle bin. Very good.
As Linux users, we know what's up. Security is non-negotiable. With threats getting smarter, your security tools need to keep pace without dragging your system down. Traditional agents, they just slow you down. They leave blind spots. It's time for a smarter approach, and that's why Destination Linux is proud to be sponsored by Sandfly Security, the revolutionary agentless platform designed for Linux. Sandfly doesn't just detect and respond. It revolutionizes security with SSH key tracking, password auditing, and drift detection, covering threats from every angle. Whether your systems are in the cloud, on-premises, or in embedded devices, Sandfly ensures they're all secure without the headaches of agent-based solutions. Listen to what Ken Kleiner has to say, the senior security engineer at the University of Massachusetts. He says, Sandfly is the first product I've seen that accurately and quickly detects thousands of signs of compromise on the Linux platform. Its unique method automates tasks which would be manually impossible. Automation is key with detection, and Sandfly completely fits this and other requirements. If your organization is using Linux, this should be part of your cybersecurity toolset. You should experience the best piece of security you could possibly get with Sandfly, and it's not just effective; it gives you peace of mind. There's no agents, there's no downtime, just cutting edge protection. Dive into the future of Linux security at destinationlinux.net/Sandfly and see how Sandfly can transform your security strategy. That's destinationlinux.net/SANDFLY or destinationlinux.net/Sandfly.
And did you know you can actually test this with a free license for up to 20
No
hosts?
way.
If you're like me and you want to get into cybersecurity, then this is a perfect opportunity to go and play with some real security software out there that's trusted by so many companies. And if you are a company and you want to see what the fuss is all about, you're going to go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly. And what you're going to do is test it out with one of these 20 free licenses and see that what we're saying is absolutely 100% fact. And you need to have Sandfly in your business. So go check them out. Go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly.
And if you're like Ryan and like heavy lifting, well, you could use something else. But if you want someone else to help you with the heavy lifting, you can get Sandfly Security.
It's like paying someone to work out for you. It's great.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. I come up with some crazy ideas for show topics.
Oh,
this
boy,
one
do
might
you.
be the worst idea I've had yet. So
I don't know. You've had some pretty big
into it.
thinkers.
I wanted to discuss what the most private and secure browser is, but this is like a huge battlefield, right?
That's great. We have 4 hours to talk about this conversation.
We've got 4 hours to get into all of the specifics here. When you're discussing this, it's going to be impossible for us to cover every possible browser variant, number one. You could feel free to leave the ones that you love or that you wish we talked about, but just know we know up front that we can't cover them all because there's a lot of variants out there. So we're kind of going to discuss more mainstream variants. Not all of them are super mainstream, but more mainstream variants because they're not obscure and they're not locked down so much that they're useless for everyday use. Because you could use a terminal-based browser, for instance, and you're not going to have to worry about anything coming through your terminal-based browser.
Yeah, including getting to websites that you want to.
Yeah, exactly. Or being able to view YouTube videos, outside of pixelated, like little green dots and stuff moving around. Because you can watch videos in the terminal. I mean, we've shown some applications
with
that you
some
do that.
of the apps, like what was the name of that app? There was it starts with a B. I can't remember. I'll look it up, but I can't remember.
We'll look it up. But our point is that we're not going to be able to touch on everything, but hopefully by the end of this, you'll kind of get an idea of what to be looking for in a browser when you think about
Browse, that's it.
Browse. We even had a shirt for Browse, didn't we?
I think so. Yeah.
We need to bring that back. Browse is the bomb, man. That is good stuff right there. Check out Browse, by the way. A free tip of the week. Extra free tip of the week there. I mean, all
just like the other free tips of everything is free about this show.
You could also watch videos via ASCII with the Lynx or eLinks web browsers as well with plugins.
I mean, why not torture yourself even more?
MPlayer, VLC.
If you don't wear glasses or contacts yet, if you use one of these, you will eventually need them within a very short period of time.
And in fact, I mean, that's how.
Look, that's
not how I got glasses.
Michael used to watch YouTube through Browse. Now he has to wear glasses. All right. So I think obviously we need to start off with Firefox. You've got.
Yeah.
Firefox is known for its strong stance on privacy. It offers features like enhanced tracking protection. You can customize your privacy settings pretty extensively inside. It's open source. It's probably one of the best well-known open source browsers. I'd say it is the most well-known open source browser. I think it's also
the best open source browser for sure. Like there are certain, depending on your overall scope of how much they do and stuff like that, because a lot of people would say like, well, about Chromium, like, well, most of what makes Chromium good is in proprietary stuff in Chrome. So
the search engine though with Firefox is interesting because it uses Google by default. So when you think about privacy, not a great choice as a default search engine. Now, why does Firefox do that, Michael? Money, always with the money. So Google actually is in trouble for this. So Firefox, we've talked about in the past, may lose its funding from Google, but it uses Google as a default search engine.
Bummer.
Yeah, and you can switch it though. You can switch it to things like DuckDuckGo, Start Page, Circs.
I have mine set to DuckDuckGo, but you can switch it to whatever you want. But the default is what Google's paying for, and a lot of people want Google. However, that's crazy. Google's search engine for the past, I don't know, year has just got worse and worse. I have no idea how they did it. I used to use DuckDuckGo. Because out of principle, out of ethics of like it's not Google and all that stuff, and then I would add the exclamation G to switch back to Google when I need to, and now it's the opposite. It's like I'm getting actual results that I want from DuckDuckGo, and Google's giving me just random stuff that I like when I'm looking for like information about a particular topic, and it's giving me news articles that I did not ask for. Like, what are you doing, Google? Like, what is happening?
It's shocking to me that a company that is harvesting so many people's data, like more than any other company potentially on the planet has ever harvested on people, is so far behind in AI and is so far behind with their search engine. Because like you said, it used to be, there really was no competitor to Google.
I mean, they were the pioneers of search engines on the web. Like, how do you mess that up? Like, what is happening?
They just don't have a good ability to see a project through and continue to enhance on it. I think their focus is way too spread out as a company, and it shows. Like,
they're the enterprise equivalent of squirrel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I've been noticing too, like Michael was saying, sometimes you don't get your correct search results until the third page, and it's just annoying. Mm-hmm. It's been really annoying.
And there's many ads now that are littered in your first portion of your results that you end up skipping down to the half of the page just to get your results. So now we're not talking about search engines necessarily, but I do want to mention it here because I think Firefox says, hey, we're privacy focused. And they even redid their logo and mission to say, hey, we're going back to this heavy privacy security thing, which I like. We talked about that on the show. I think it's fantastic. But you use Google as your default search engine, and that's not so private. So, that's just something for them to consider. I think it's going to go away either way, but they should create a partnership with a search engine like DuckDuckGo or even Start Page that are known to be much more private out of default. When you look at extensions, they have a vast library of extensions to allow you to add additional security into Firefox, which is great. uBlock Origin, Privacy Badger, which is one of my favorites, can be added to bolster security.
uBlock is like legitimate in Firefox, whereas they've purposefully broken it. But Google's purposely broken it, but the Manifest 3 thing, and so you can't really use uBlock Origin full in Chrome or anyway. So. That's another point for Firefox that you actually can use the real one.
Now, I would say that the community as a whole would probably, if you pulled them, say this was the most trusted browser in the tech
I would say
community.
that they still would say it's the most trusted mainstream browser.
Maybe. But the next one that I want to talk about might be what a lot of people might take a big percentage chunk, at least, out of that poll, which is Brave.
Sure, Brave.
Brave is built-in privacy by default. All of the privacy features are enabled by default, like add and tracking blocking, fingerprint protection, and HTTPS everywhere, all by default the moment you download it. You don't need to go into settings like in Firefox and turn on some of these things. It's all there the second you download it. So that's a big deal.
It is good. There's also a little bit of an ethics point in terms of like the ad blocking and tracker blocking. I'm okay with that. But like the ad blocking, there is a little bit of, is it okay because you're basically forcing the websites that you're delivering or I guess deploying to the user that they don't have, they're not in control of what is being shown on their website in terms of like, revenue
Ads and
building.
things.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into that in a second, but I want to talk about HTTPS everywhere, Michael. That is not default in Firefox. Why not?
Yeah. So the HTTPS everywhere is an extension that I believe, I could be wrong about this, because I believe it's about forcing HTTPS no matter what. And if it doesn't, then it kind of like fails and just says, oh, you can't run it or something like that. But what Firefox does is I don't know if it's this version. I think it's 136, the next version that's coming out, where they're going to have default HTTPS. And then if you choose to manually go to HTTP, then it will go to HTTP. Or if it doesn't have it, it will tell you that it doesn't have it, and you can choose to keep going to the regular one. So it is going to, but yeah, they don't have it. They might not have it right now. I don't remember if it was 135 or 136.
Now, there are times, Michael, where I find it annoying that I can't bypass it in other browsers, and actually appreciate the Firefox has that option to bypass.
Yeah, that is
because
nice.
we've lost our HTTPS license before. Yes, we've forgotten to renew things.
Well, it's mostly like, Let's Encrypt is awesome. Let's Encrypt is awesome. There are so many great things about it. But there are certain implementations of certain kinds of software where we had a server that automatically would renew the cert for us, which is awesome. That's fantastic. However, if you forget to update in a particular style of like there's multiple different ways this product updates or project updates, and that when you don't, if it goes for a certain amount of time, you don't do the full blown core update, it doesn't run the renewal for the thing. And so I have a calendar notification once every 3 months to remind me to make sure I update that project so that it automatically updates the cert. And before I had that calendar note, it has happened where it did not update and the cert was broken. But there's different kinds of it's possible for things to go awry in that situation.
So HTTPS Everywhere, by the way, was developed by the Tor project and EFF, two companies I absolutely adore and trust with privacy. So I think it's a very great tool to utilize. Very good. I think having HTTPS Everywhere, a lot of people say, makes VPNs irrelevant because you essentially have a secure encrypted connection to every website. I don't agree with that, by the way, because I think
definitely not true.
That's not the case. But I've seen that argument made that you
also
need a VPN
VPNs,
because of HTTPS.
HTTPS and VPNs are kind of like they do a different thing, and neither one of them are any kind of foolproof. And even if you had both of them, it's still not foolproof.
Very good point there. So Brave though uses its own search engine, which by the way I absolutely
really like.
adore.
Yeah,
its search engine to me is the best because privacy in mind, and it does use Bing for some of its results for images, I think, because all of them have problems with hosting, obviously, all the images on the internet and not spending $20 trillion. I
think Bing is underrated.
Bing is great too. Yeah, it's not bad.
It's actually, I think that's surprisingly
you
good.
Expected me to argue with you there, but Bing's
I did
way
actually.
Better.
I was kind of being like, throwing it out there, seeing like who's going to take the bait, but I guess nobody. So
yeah, unfortunately, we agree on that point.
Yeah, Bing's gotten better, and it's really pretty to look at.
It really is, and I really think Copilot was a turning point for Bing. I mean, obviously, basing themselves off Chromium was the first major, probably the biggest step that they made to improving Edge overall. So a lot more people used Edge. But then they got introduced to Bing, which was actually a really good search engine with Copilot being there. Also, I think has helped tremendously with the results because sometimes when I'm using Bing, I love the fact that it's going to give me an AI generated answer because I'm asking a question.
And when I get Google AI answers, they're terrible.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's the most worthless.
What are you? So how Google? How you have
DuckDuckGo has AI now. By the way, we talk about search engines. It now has a AI search feature as well, which I really appreciate in there. Now, why is Brave controversial at all? Because it sounds like based on everything we're saying here, this should be the answer. They have one of the best search engines, which, by the way, is not filtered so heavily. And that's one of the things I love about Brave Search is you're getting very unfiltered results. They're not removing things out of there. So you kind of can, if you really want to find a site that's very obscure, other things, it's much easier with Brave. But the big problem with Brave, or where they got attention with, is
two problems, really.
Their BAT token.
Yeah.
So they went crypto. And so basically their crypto system, which Michael was talking about earlier to explain, is it's a reward system for viewing privacy focused
respecting
ads. Privacy
Okay.
respecting ads.
Yeah.
That's a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
So essentially you go to a website and Brave is going to block all the ads. So you go to, Michael's Crocs.com, where he puts tons of advertising, but you get to see his favorite pair of Crocs. And he's got advertising everywhere, all over that page. Well, if you use Brave, it's going to block all his ads. He's not going to get zero revenue for showing his Croc pictures. Zero.
Zero.
But Brave
I'm not
says,
making that website. I was tempted for a secend as like a joke.
Could you
Yes.
please make that site and just put a picture of your Crocs and that's it?
If you
and then
pay
a
for
bunch
the
of ads.
domain, I'll do it.
Just a bunch of ads. Can you go to destinationlinux.net/Michael's Crocs and then it's just a picture of your Crocs
Yes, I will do that. Yes.
and tons of ads. It's
I think
gonna have tons of ads.
I actually think I can do that one. Destinationlinux.net/Michael's Crocs.
And then you need to put 8-Bit's Rubber Clog Tycoon game on there as well.
Yeah, but you have to get through all the ads to get to it. It's going to be tons of ads. Just ad after ad after ad and a tiny picture of his Crocs. It's a revenue generation stream.
I feel like one of the modern news websites.
Yeah. But what Brave does is it removes your ads, which kind of stinks, right? And it puts its own ads there, but they're privacy, respecting ads. And then they essentially, if you view these ads and things, a certain amount of BAT gets generated or cryptocurrency. If you're a creator and you happen to know that Brave exists and that they use this token system, then you can create an account and you can get a portion of that BAT as like a reward for them viewing the ads they replaced on your site and replaced with their own ads.
And then you can take the BAT that you're given and then take it to some kind of crypto exchange system and then pay a fee to get money from it. So making it simple, Brave.
Making it simple. And, it's also Chromium based, which would be the second issue with Brave, right? Is that everything, Google's influence is there with Chrome based, with anything Chromium based, even though they remove a lot of Google stuff out of it. It's still there, right? You're going to go to the extension store and other stuff. You're going to be using Google's.
And they're giving Google more and more power and stuff like that because of the fact that they're using Chromium. And yes, technically, there's the whole Chromium thing with Linux Foundation that they're doing now. But that's basically because they seem like they think that they have to do that. So or maybe they don't. Maybe that's just like a temporary thing because it's not really it's more of like a fund or a group that supports it. It's not really like a control. It doesn't seem. But either way, Brave being based on Chromium is a downside because it's kind of consolidating everything into a single the Chromium.
And this
system.
matters because Google can start pulling plugs on things because they generate that backend engine, right? Yeah. uBlock Origin is a perfect example of something that Google has pulled the plug on that makes it much more difficult. Now, companies do workarounds, but then Google can do workarounds as well to try to stop their workarounds, and it's this constant game. So that's why using Firefox or something with its own engine is generally considered a lot better than being based on Chromium. But, it also takes a lot of work off Brave's plate to be able to utilize that base of Chromium and not have to design something from the ground up.
I wish more companies would be based on Firefox in the sense that they're a fork of Firefox and then they do stuff that they can send back to Firefox to improve it overall rather than just Google did this. Let's just go with Google. That would be my ideal. Maybe Firefox is not great for everybody, but I would like to see that kind of thing because you see forks of Firefox, but you don't see any big company making a fork of Firefox. You only see people who are doing it as a not like a pet
smaller
project,
foundations, those type of things.
Yeah,
they have a goal that they just it's more like an ethical reasoning rather than trying to create the best browser necessarily.
We're going to talk about one of those two here briefly. There's Chrome. We could talk about. Look.
Chrome is the greatest browser for anyone who hates having privacy. If you don't
hate your privacy, if you leave your front door wide open, your windows up, your mailbox, you tear open your mail right there and then just leave it all on the road for everyone to read. then use Google Chrome and you will have
or if you're the type of person who opens your mail, takes photos, and puts it on Facebook, then that is that is what Chrome is for you. It's perfect. You'll love it.
Obviously, extensive user data collection, good performance. Not there's privacy extensions, but Google's done some things where they're basically neutering those extensions and then saying that they're being more private while doing so. You don't need them because we're creating this other system, and it's very confusing and it's not really above board with what they're doing, in my opinion. So let's go into something a little less known, perhaps, out there, LibreWolf. And LibreWolf is an example of what Michael's saying. This is a Firefox fork with a privacy as a core focus. Like that's their core mission statement, is to create a very private version of Firefox. It disables all telemetry, DRM, including anti-tracking features by default. It has a search engine that defaults to DuckDuckGo. Hello.
So LibreWolf is an interesting browser, and this is like I'm torn. Okay, so first, I love the fact that they're privacy focused and they disable all the stuff that you don't want. They add all the stuff that you do want and all that. I do like that a lot, but it's also I'm curious how it plans to be sustainable, right? Because eventually, if you're doing all this work and it's just on your spare time, and then something bad happens, how are you going to put the time into to do this? But also, it's not even just the funding or the sustainability aspects. It's also the fact that it's a fork of Firefox that is kind of suggesting that Firefox is bad. Now, I'm not saying that either way that Firefox, I'm not trying to defend Firefox here. I'm trying to say that without Firefox, we just have Chrome or Chromium. And it's kind of like...
Could LibreWolf pick up the mantle if Firefox went away and continue to maintain that engine and other things?
I'm worried. I'm kind of worried about the sustainability of the project because of that. If Firefox were to go away, is there someone who could come in and make sure it keeps going? And if they were to be having the privacy focus on top of that, then that's great. I don't have a problem with that. It's just I'm just kind of wary about that sort of thing, because I think forking Firefox is good, though. It's just, we also have to kind of keep Firefox going in order that it's just kind of
a bigger organization to fork Firefox and potentially take that over. There's other options as well. You've got the Tor browser, obviously routes your internet traffic through the Tor network, and it uses DuckDuckGo. You've got ungoogled Chromium, which is a version of without Google integration that you can utilize. There are some, interesting use cases for Chromium. For instance, there are certain applications that will only run in a Chrome browser. And if you're going to have to have a Chrome browser, then Chromium would be a great example of ungoogled Chromium would be a great thing for you to use in place of straight Chrome. There's Waterfox too, which is another Firefox fork emphasizing privacy and speed. It's got a lot of the Firefox add-ons and things that default works with very well out of the box.
There's also the Mulvad browser too, which is very similar. Similar to the Tor browser and stuff like that.
Jill, which one do you use?
Oh gosh, I've been using FireDragon a lot. It's actually kind of one of my go-tos besides Firefox. FireDragon is actually Garuda's Linux's Firefox-based privacy-focused web browser. It's a fork of both the security-conscious Florp web browser, which is another web browser we haven't mentioned yet. That's actually kind of gaining popularity, as well as
one of the weirdest names.
It is. It's a weird name, and I think that's why it hasn't really taken off.
Yep.
But FireDragon is also a fork of LibreWolf web browser as well. But it has a very pretty neon cyberpunk colors and theming, although you don't have to use that if you don't want to. Yeah. And it works on every platform, not just Garuda Linux. So I run it on Ubuntu and Debian. The one thing I love about it is the default search engine. It's one of my absolute favorites is Garuda's Cirex NG instance, which is actually a meta search engine that is very privacy focused and doesn't store user data. And I really appreciate that. It sometimes takes longer for the searches to come up, but it's worth the wait because it's secure. It's not sharing your data. and it runs really well. And I remember even Ryan set up the
Created my
Xerox
own
engine.
search. Yeah.
We covered it on the show a while back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Search is
Quite a few years
awesome.
ago.
If you want to create your own search engine, it's a really fun project too that you can do with things like DigitalOcean and other services as well. If you don't want to host it yourself,
Yeah.
So one of the problems with these less popular options is that you can't use them across multiple devices. So you're not going to put FireDragon on your iPhone. You're not going to put FireDragon on your Android device. You're not going to be able to put these apps. So you're going to have multiple different browsers depending on where you're at. Whereas, for instance, Firefox, Brave, Tor even have their own browsers on multiple different devices, so that you can stick with one browser and be good. So at the end of the day, like, I love LibreWolf. I've talked about on the show using it a lot, but ultimately, if I was to say what is the one I utilize the most, it's still Firefox, but with Brave Search. So even on my phone, Firefox with Brave Search, that's the default that I have actually a favorited icon that just when I open Firefox, I click on the Brave Search and it takes me there because it's not an option to change in the mobile version. So I think Firefox is a pretty good option overall for most people still. I think is one of the best overall browsers for you to use and download, and you're not going to lose anything in doing so. So it's privacy focused, but
it's a weird problem of the fact that it's privacy focused, it's openness focused, and all that stuff. But they also kind of compromise on certain things. And at the same time, I agree that there is some things that you kind of you have to be able to fund the development or whatever, because all of these great browsers based on Firefox, like, no one is questioning whether or not Chromium is going to be funded. No one, right? So with Firefox being the only alternative, really, there's technically that work being made on Ladybird, but that's not even alpha yet, and it won't be for another year. So it's not really on the table for a while. But so we have this situation of the only alternative is Firefox, and most of the people who are talking about the secure and private browsers, they're anti-Firefox. And you could say, like, hey, I'm just saying, like, my opinion would be, like, if you don't like Firefox, that's fine. Just be more, instead of saying Firefox is evil or whatever, just say something like, I like this better. Like, because there are a lot of cool browsers. LibreWolf is very cool. For example, there's a new Firefox one. Well, I don't know how new it is, but Zen is a very cool browser, and I use it quite a bit. And Firefox is still my main browser, but Zen is very nice. The UI control you have and all the features they added, it's very cool. So I do think there is a place to improve Firefox. And I think Zen is a good example of trying to do that, as well as LibreWolf. So I think there is elements there. But I think that this is more of like the Firefox forks would best be served in a collective collaboration to push Firefox forward.
I think LibreWolf, if somebody said I want the best security, privacy, and that's out of the box available, I would say LibreWolf is probably the one I would recommend to people right out of the box for that. If that was your sole and only goal, if you want, again, to be able to have some convenience of utilizing cross devices, it's Firefox. But there's also Vivaldi, there's Opera, there's these others.
Opera.
We didn't bring them in the conversation. I think they all have some great benefits and capabilities, but they're really not known for being the most private or secure options out there. But they are very useful. They have some very useful tools built into both of those options, frankly.
Sure.
So, but I wouldn't classify them as your private and security thing. The whole point here, Michael, is there doesn't seem to be any perfect solution for the most secure and private browser for everyone.
No.
Yeah.
So here's my take on this. I feel like, depending on your preferences, this is where you choose the browser, and because there's no perfect solution. But I feel like the most important piece is that we shouldn't try to force your choice or our preferences or whatever on anyone, because there isn't the perfect option. Now, so it's not to say that you shouldn't give your recommendation or whatever, but not to like suggest that they're doing anything wrong or whatever.
If somebody else is stupid for using this browser.
Yeah. Right. Unless that's Chrome or Edge, then
Yes, then you need to stop. You need to stop, and you're completely making the wrong choice, and we're going to help turn you around. We feel bad for you. Please use a different browser.
If they're using something based on Firefox, then it's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, completely makes sense.
I can't say that for sure, but because I don't know all of them that exist, but probably.
One of the things I think is really interesting about this conversation is that it feeds into our next story perfectly, because Michael, you mentioned funding as being a major concern, right? Is the project that you're going to move all your computers to, have your bookmarks stored in, all of this stuff going to be funded? Funding is a big issue, and it's especially concerning. I mean, I'm concerned about Firefox's funding going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like, will this company, Mozilla, even exist in its current form or be able to do the stuff that it wants to do with all of the changes, like losing the money from Google Chrome and things like that out there? Mm-hmm. So Equinix, I think that's how you pronounce it.
I'm pretty sure, yes, Equinix.
Equinix is ending their donations to many open source projects. And I've got to be honest, Michael, when I was reading this, you brought this to the show, very fascinating topic. I had no idea who they were. And when I realized everything they're powering, I was like, why don't I know who they are?
Yeah.
Because this company has done a lot for open source. They've done a lot for open source, and I have no clue.
I think it's funny that you hadn't heard of them, but let me for those who also have not heard of them, I'll give you a brief synopsis. Basically, they're like one of the heavy hitters in the data center industry, and they have been doing a lot of stuff for various different open source projects, because they purchased a company called Packet, and then that they converted that into a service called Equinix Metal, and that was being used to give donations of hardware and bandwidth and stuff like that to a ton of projects, which is awesome. And I had also never heard of this company until the news that they were no longer giving donations to these projects. Like, what? How? I do a news show weekly about Linux, and this company has been and I've had the show before Equinix started doing donations, and I had never heard of them. So how does this happen? How do you let's talk about what they're doing, right? So they were doing a project like open source donations for the freedesktop.org organization, Xorg, Mesa drivers, Wayland, also Alpine Linux, WireGuard, and a lot of others. So let's unpack what this means for these projects, why it's a big deal, and what they're planning to do next. As far as the projects go, we know what Equinix is going to do, not provide any donations. But they've been doing a lot. So Equinix has been hosting critical aspects for various different projects. They've been donating substantial resources like multiple server clusters and stuff like that for various different projects, including with freedesktop.org. Their GitLab has been using as much as 50 terabytes of bandwidth per month. And
Think about that. 50 terabytes of bandwidth on a server that they're paying for as a donation to open source. That I'm going to go out there and say, I bet most of the people in the open source community had no clue this company was doing this great work.
I'm going to bet that anybody outside of the freedesktop.org project and anybody outside of people who know those people who are in it did not know.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, Equinix, I know you're pulling the funding, and I'm sure, you have your reasons why you have to do that as a company. I know things are tight for a lot of companies right now, but I just want to say thank you for donating all of this for so long.
It's not about anti-Equinix or anything. It's like, you've been doing this for 5 years. And let me give you the context of what this all means. Like, all the stuff they were been doing, the bandwidth for freedesktop.org, that's also not all the bandwidth. They were giving bandwidth to Alpine Linux for as much as 800 terabytes a month. Like, crazy. And so this would, for just the freedesktop.org stuff, this is not accounting everything, but because we don't have the details for everything. But based on what they were giving freedesktop.org, I did some math, napkin math, whatever, that is about $24,000 a month. And with over almost like 5 years or so of doing these donations, that's over $1 million in donated services. So this is, first of all, thank you, Equinix, for doing it as much as you have and all that stuff. It's a bummer that you're going away and you're taking. Maybe you just don't think the service is worth keeping, so that's why you're getting rid of it. Because they're not just getting rid of the. It's not like, hey, we're not going to help you projects anymore. They're ending the service entirely. So it's because of that the projects are not getting it.
Well, I'll tell you what would have been nice. What would have been nice is if, and I'm going to put this a little bit back on the companies that were utilizing these services, because, freedesktop.org, we're not talking about the website, by the way.
Right.
They're not hosting the website. We're talking about like the actual Mesa code, the Wayland code, the X.org code that people were downloading to put into their Linux distributions, updating, maintain all of those pipelines they're supporting here. I really think it's a shame that freedesktop.org, as well as Alpine and others, did not make a bigger deal out of this. We should have all known through them that this company was donating all of this money and resources, because it is money at the end of the day. It's their resources that cost money to maintain and run. And they didn't do it. Like, you go to freedesktop.org, there's this little tiny blurb at the very bottom of the webpage that mentions it. Like, I think it's, we've always talked about open source projects have a really big problem with marketing. Like, they not only do they not market well, they usually don't market at all.
Not at all. Yeah.
And in this case, it's like somebody's giving you these services. You should kind of make a big deal about it and make sure that everybody knows about it. And putting a little blurb at the very bottom of your very archaic, crappy looking website. I'm sorry, but freedesktop.org looks like absolute trash from, like, I don't know, the 60s.
It looks like the 90s. Well, not.
I was going to say 60s before the internet
60s,
existed.
Yeah, before it existed.
It would have been like a bulletin board where they put a pin in, and it looks like that. Like,
Aww.
Yeah. To be fair to Ryan, it is awful. Yes, this is one of the worst looking websites in like, not necessarily in like ever. I mean, DistroWatch exists, so it's.
Oh man! Wow, Michael,
well,
that's not even true.
Just to be fair,
DistroWatch is way better. That was
no. At least freedes.org at least has like colors that don't look like like old paper that has been rotting in the weather and stuff. Like, it's not great, but it's just more of like the promotional aspects of these things. Like, the first of all, Equinix should have been doing it. They should have been reaching out to people and telling people and stuff like that. And if any project decides to do this, absolutely, you should
toot your own horn.
Toot your own horn for sure. But at the same time, there is an element of the projects themselves should be promoting these things, because right. This is something that you should be appreciating to an insane level, not just tiny little sentence in the bottom of a webpage.
In freedesktop.org's and Xorg's defense on their website, I think honestly, because those businesses have been around for years. I mean, Xorg since the Unix days.
Coca-Cola, their website doesn't suck.
So honestly, I think one of the reasons why is that they wanted to make their websites terminal friendly. So if you're using links or e-links or W3M, you can still access the website and view it.
That's great. And we also now have Browse, so we don't have to care about that. We're going to ignore. We're going to tell them, like, hey, you don't have to do that. It's good that you're trying to do that. Whatever. We're good. We
create a static web page that doesn't look like trash.
Yeah,
even if you're like, hey, we have people accessing all around the world with very limited bandwidth. Totally,
you don't like
sense.
JavaScript? Totally fine. You don't have to use it, but you could use the thing called an image, which is I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but you could do that, and it would make your website look better.
Not that I don't appreciate. Let me be very clear. I really appreciate everything Free Desktop does.
Of course,
like,
their
work
just
is
kidding about
incredible. We're just messing around with their website because that's a perfect opportunity to say, hey, we have this company that's really helping us out here. Everyone should know about. All right, so we beat up on Free Desktop enough. Let's talk about other projects. You got Alpine on.
We love it,
website.
By the way. We're just being a little bit bantery.
We're being a little bit ugly. And listen, Jill, you're supposed to be the one that stops us from being ugly, and I don't
Exactly.
feel like you've done a good job this episode.
So
You've let us.
if you're
probably
bothered
haven't.
by us, if you're bothered by us making these jokes, be sure to put in the comments and go to destinationlinux.net/comments and say, why would you let this happen, Jill? And
Yes, why would you let this happen?
Boys, get in line and be nice.
Okay, fine. Their website does suck, but we're going to move on to other. We're going to talk about other projects that are also affected by this. You know, we're talking about Alpine. That's a big deal.
Yep.
Michael, there are other projects as well. WireGuard. X.org. You know, this is not, by the way, the X of the Twitter thing, that whatever the heck that is. We're talking about the actual
X.org,
desktop.
not X.com. Yeah.
Yeah. X.org. Exactly. You know, that's weird that is kind of a thing now, right?
I'm pretty sure. So here's the thing. I think X.org was created before X.com. And this is funny because there was like this period of time where everybody was getting .org because they wanted to before the open source factor, and they wanted to be like the free software factor. Like, we're going to get the open source because this means organization and all that stuff. And they could have got .com, but they didn't. And then here we are. And there's that applies to a bunch of stuff. So if you search for some things and you accidentally put .com that are for an open source project when it's .org, it will go to a random website, or it'll go to a broken website that you can pay $10,000 to get the domain.
Maybe Elon will pay up $1 trillion to X.org to get X.org, and then X.org can just change to xdesktop.org. And then they get $1 trillion, and that fixes the funding problem to be able to buy more servers there. So that's one solution.
You're welcome, freedesktop.org.
Yeah, we got that one fixed for you. Look, this is the big deal here. Ultimately, is Equinix was providing a lot of solutions and hosting. That's going away now. All of these
have to pivot.
Organizations have to find funding, and so they're going to be looking for either donations to get funding. They're going to be looking for other organizations to potentially donate. But this is a big problem. You've got finding sponsorships is really difficult, especially when the economy is not great. When every company's tightening things, we know firsthand how tough it is when companies tighten their pockets when it comes to funding, like advertising and other things, and then giving away free products is generally not on the list, top of the list for executives when their companies are hurting for funding as well. So number one, open source relies heavily on companies doing things like this. And I think
a
open
lot
source
of reliance on like corporate sponsorships and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. So we like to think like open source is anti-corporation and all of that type of stuff for big corporation, but it's without big corporation, a lot of this stuff kind of goes by the wayside.
Whether we like it or not, money rules the world. And
does it? I thought it was love. Jill told me it was love. It
should be love.
No. Love fuels the world. Money runs the world, like rules the world. Like it's,
I got you. Okay.
It's a little different.
But
one's optimistic and one is pessimistic. That's the mindset. But you have to have that dichotomy because you can't have good without bad, and you can't have positive without negative, and you can't have Jill without Ryan, the positive, negative.
Yeah.
So
Jill without Ryan. The evil and the good. You have to have evil for there to be good.
Exactly. Exactly. So Ryan, you gotta have a Ryan on the show in order to Jill on the show. Like it is.
And Michael's the neutral potato in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm Switzerland. Yeah.
Switzerland. All right. So key takeaways again is these companies have to get funding. So if one of these companies is very important to you, which a lot of them should be very important to you, then you might want to look into helping them out if they are. Some of them are looking for donations from their community and things like that. But ultimately, this begs a bigger question of how do we solve this problem? So one of my thoughts, Michael, was, hey, we have this torrent system. And this torrent system is out there to distribute files utilizing everyone's computer as a potential server. And now you don't really have that issue of having to have this centralized, bunch of servers with 50 terabytes of data and things, because you can torrent it through everyone's connections. And we all kind of share that responsibility. I mean, that's kind of what torrent was meant for originally. And then it got used a lot for hacking and other stuff. But it still plays a vital role in allowing people to distribute software at a very cheap, almost free, aside the hosting of a website kind of cost there. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's
terrible idea, huh?
No, so
just say it, Michael. I could see it written all over your face. You're like, this idiot.
Typically,
I don't even
your
have
ideas
to
are
answer
terrible.
this.
Like, so most of your ideas are terrible. We already talked about how you have really big stinkers about making chess topics, but stinkers. But really, this is actually a really good point. It's a really good idea. But in terms of like the mechanics and the logistics of it, it's pretty complicated. And not even just to say to implement it, it's complicated for it to work in a reliable way, because like the way torrents work is that you have to have someone seeding that torrent. And once the seed goes away, it's basically like everybody else who has a piece continues to seed, and then you keep be able to download it. But in theory, that if the seed goes away and then everyone else stops doing the downloading and stops doing the sharing, then the seed is gone completely and the file's gone entirely. And you have to restart the whole seed again. And there's some suggestions that depending on the client, depending on the server software that the torrents are being used to be created and deployed, there is security concerns where when the seed, if the front seed stops, it could be replaced by malicious seeds. And like technically there are some software that has like hashing where it can kind of tell the difference, but there's also some that don't have that stuff. So there's a potential where there could be, backlash for using those.
And when Michael's talking about hashing, what he's referring to is you'll see this on some sites where you download a file and it will give you basically a hash key that you compare. You run a command in the terminal and it will compare the hash key of the software you downloaded with the hash key of the actual developer, and you utilize that to make sure you're getting the original source file, essentially, and that it's not compromised. It's an additional layer of protection.
And the torrents kind of do that automatically with like the handshake system, and it works well, but it also, you still have to trust who it's coming from. So it doesn't really solve it puts a lot of, the phrase too many cooks in the kitchen. It takes the kitchen, turns it into a giant cafeteria, and puts a lot of people in that situation. So it can be great, and most of the time it's great. And if the seed server or whoever is doing the seeding stays connected the entire time, like forever, then you don't have to worry about it, because it can't be taken over by another seeder if the seed.
But you have different versions. So if I seed, if I'm Alpine Linux, let's say, and I seed version 10, I'm just making something up, of my distro, and then we're at version 20, many years later.
That's true.
Version 10 goes away, right?
And then finds the one that they think is official. Yeah, they could think it's official, and somebody seeds a version and say, "Oh, this is 10." If you want to go back and look at it, but that kind of exists today. It's one of the problems with torrents. So it's not a perfect solution, but it's not an idiot sandwich like you're making it out to be either, Michael. I never said it was an idiot sandwich.
You said idiot sandwich. Roll the tape back.
No,
Jill, you're not
Ramsey
keeping
said
Michael
idiot sandwich. I did not say that.
He said stinker. He said big stinker.
I did. I said you usually have big stinker.
Oh, that's right. I think you're an idiot sandwich, and that came to the front of my.
Exactly.
Anyways, Jill,
you were channeling Gordon Ramsay, not me.
Torrents actually, to me, are a marvelous way to share distros, the ISOs. Actually, that really helped in the early years when we had lower bandwidth of sharing distros. So it's really a powerful tool for open source, and I think it's a great idea. I mean, all the major distros use it, like Ubuntu and Debian, and I've gotten tons of
Ryan, she's
ISOs
saying that
from
torrents are a great idea in general.
Yeah,
not your idea.
But the other idea that I had, as we've talked about this many times in the past here on the show,
totally agrees.
But actually, another way that they can make money is having a universal package manager for all distributions, like Elementary OS's App Center, where you can pay and donate to open source apps and projects. Is actually a great way to increase funding by us loyal users who love these apps. And this could also be used Yes, also be used for infrastructure projects as well, like Mesa, Wayland, Xorg, and freedesktop.org. Doesn't have to just be apps.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
a universal app store would be great for there's a lot of potential for value there to overall, but I don't know if that wouldn't, I don't
It
see how
wouldn't
that would
generate
help.
enough.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think it would help.
Linux
I'm just
users
saying
can't
playing,
agree on what terminal app to utilize, let alone a
Right.
universal package
Yeah.
manager, you know?
That's true
Yeah,
too, but
it-
also like there's so many different projects that just don't get any mind share. Like,
Yeah.
yes, they get tons of market share in the sense that they are like fundamental baseline things that people use. Like, for example, XZ had that huge kerfuffle with the
right.
backdoor. But before that, people just took it for granted. It was made by one person, but they took it for granted. And it was like, this guy, by themselves for years, just is going to, forever keep this going and not get burned out. No problem. And then there's hundreds of those. There's hundreds of projects that are that are critical, that are super important, that are being maintained by one or a few people. And we're not going to be able to put those in a store because they're fundamentally a part of the core system. And I maybe there could be a way to find a sustainable solution for that. But I do think the app store concept would be great for apps that users can use and that sort of stuff that are directly purchasing and that kind of. But we need to have some kind of effort to provide a mechanism or some kind of framework that would be beneficial to providing some sort of sustainability for these crucial projects.
Yeah, I totally agree. And App Center, that suggestion was made. It wouldn't probably be lots of revenue, but at least it would be some.
It certainly brings recognition to the fact that we should be donating more. I love what Elementary OS does. We've talked about that. When it comes to the back-end infrastructure, I think an organization, a single organization that kind of brings all these together that you can donate to and it gets split would definitely be beneficial, because right now I'd have to go to all of these different sites and donate individually. It would be nice.
And some projects actually have the individuals of that project have donation stuff, but not the project itself. Like I've seen that before. So that's even more complicated.
You know what? Like an open collective app that open collective that you can just launch, and it has a list of all the open source Linux apps, and we can just say click.
We've got
click,
a
click.
lot of talented people in our audience, like 8-Bit, for instance. We don't want you to pause working on our game, because that's big time. That's how we become the next EA. We don't want to become EA. That's how we become the next Blizzard. Oh, we don't want to become Blizzard. That's how we become the next Microsoft Games. No, we don't want to be them either.
The next bunch, no.
Is there any?
The next Riot? No, definitely not. Epic? No, never.
Valve.
Yes. That's how we become the next Valve. It took us a minute, but we finally got there.
There's a lot
of effort. The studios have turned to trash. That is sad, isn't it? We're joking, but we're kind of not. Jill, you're supposed to make us nice.
We were just coming up with more and more terrible gaming industries, and then Jill was like, "Hey, here's a good one." Like, "Oh yeah, thanks, Jill." So she did help out there,
She did help out there, but she didn't keep us from going negative.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think she's appreciating the humor and just keeping it going.
I was appreciating it. Yeah.
Maybe we should get Jill a spray bottle so she can spray us like cats anytime or a newspaper she slaps on her hand, to scare us.
I like the spray bottle thing the best. That'd be hilarious.
Sprays her camera. That's great. All right. So 8-Bit, you could create this foundation. You could create this software to allow all these donations and create this blockchain distribution like system to distribute the money based on maybe the popularity, downloads, and
maybe
usage.
Not blockchain. You just threw in a buzzword. I
said blockchain like distribution system.
Oh, okay. I got you.
It's recorded permanently. We know where the money's going.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that would. Okay, fair enough. That would be a great way of using. That's actually a good concept for blockchain to exist. Yeah.
There you go.
We have proof of where it's going and all that sort of stuff.
We solved it here by volunteering other people's labor.
Exactly, of course. And that's what we do best. But also, there's also Open Collective. Yeah, micromanagers. And these are... So Open Collective is a thing. It does exist. There's a service called that. And it's interesting because it's a service that's kind of like a Patreon, but not exactly a Patreon. And it's a cool idea, but what we're talking about is more of like something that is a single entity somehow that you can donate to, and then they will disperse it to other places. And this would be great because it simplifies the process, and it means that you can, but also you'd still want to maybe choose what you're sending it to. And so there's an element of,
by the way,
complexity there.
corporations could donate and sponsor major projects at a time, like Equinix did, where they have all these projects.
Oh yeah, and tell us about it.
They could donate to that. And then we would all know, because the website for this foundation would actually advertise those companies in a big way.
Oh, unlike that's a good point. Yeah,
what everyone else did.
There is technically an organization that I know of that sort of does some sort of, where they are. It's called SPI, or Software in the Public Interest, and it's basically like a legal organization where they help you do donations, and you donate to them, and then they disperse it to a bunch of projects. And there's a lot in there. Like I think Xorg is in there, in there, freedesk.org is in there, I think. And also Arch Linux is in there, and a bunch of others. So there is something like that, but it requires you to go through the process of giving them like legal, stuff that is a little different. And also their website is awful. We're going to bring it all together. I don't know that
you kind of went full circle there. You're like, I was on board. We were riding the wave. Everything was exciting. And you're like, oh, by the way, there's a waterfall 3 feet ahead. And then it's, I don't know where you were going. Listen, at this point, we have exhausted our brain capacity, which doesn't take long. And now it's up to you to solve this problem. But we want to hear from you. Send us your thoughts on this. Comments at destinationlinux.org. Tell us what you think is the solution here for this problem.
Okay.
Where are you laughing, Michael?
I searched Google for software in the public interest to get to their website, and it showed me Publix, the grocery store.
Publix needs to step up and start sponsoring these open source projects.
Yeah, exactly. Software in the
charge
public
so much
interest.
for their groceries, they can totally afford it. By the way, because we went so long on those topics, because Michael went so long on those topics, we're going to have to skip gaming. We're going to have to skip mobile news, which I had the most exciting article about that's going to change the way you use your phone forever, but you'll have to wait till next week.
But apparently it's my fault because I talk too much.
He talks too much because you took us on a long journey that ended with the same circle problem. Like, you didn't get us to a destination.
I got
not
to
about
a
the journey, Michael. It's about the destination.
I got us to the it is about the journey. We've already established that because the journey itself is just as important. We've said that hundreds of times, and
you've said that. Don't put words in my mouth.
It's so funny because Ryan missed a week. I'm still suffering from being a really bad cold. And what is Michael's excuse?
Yeah,
what is your excuse, Michael?
What happened was the way my bank is set up. There's two different accounts, multiple accounts, and then I got one savings and one is checking. We don't know the joke of Chris Hart or Chris Hart.
Nobody does. No. Moving on. Software Spotlight this week is IRSSI. Yes, IRC is still alive, and many people still utilize it. Michael, by many dozens of people utilize it.
Dozens and dozens of fans.
And if you want to look like elite hacker, you want to use IRC in the terminal naturally. If you're going to use IRC, you want to use it in the terminal because that makes you look cool. So the Software Spotlight allows you to just, to be able to do that. And it's IRSSI. It's a modular text mode
or
chat
I like
client.
to call it IRSI.
IRSI.
Yeah,
and it comes with IRC support built in. It's themable. You can do all of the different themes to make it look there's probably a Matrix theme in there somewhere to make you look super elite hackers.
You can make it look slightly better than an IRC terminal client.
IRSSI makes it easy to write protocol modules in C. You can enjoy the chatting power of it in combination with ICB, SILC, IRC. So there's multiple chatting scripts and things in there. So
not ICQ,
I wanted to note
not that one.
That this tool actually came up in a cybersecurity course that I was taking, and they used it as an example. We were creating botnets, and we were simulating DDoS attacks, and you could utilize this tool to essentially simulate the attack or execute the attack, because the botnets connect to this IRC room and they wait for command to be issued into the IRC. When you issue that command into the IRC, that's when your botnet takes over all of the computers and does its thing. So you get all your part of your botnet is to.
I mean, that's
basically-
interesting, but it also sounds
really
like you
cool.
could just do that with any IRC client.
Shut up, Michael. You could do it with Discord. You could do it with all kinds of things. But the point is that it's way cooler to do it in IRC, and
Because it's in a terminal.
less people are going to be able to see it, right? They're not going to be able. They're not going to be suspicious of it because who uses IRC?
Yeah, of course. And also, if you have a drop-down terminal, you can just hit one key and then boom, it goes away.
There you go. Yeah, goes away forever. You don't even have to delete logs or anything, and everything just disappears when you. I'm
referring to people who just walk past you, behind you, like over your shoulder. That's all.
Okay.
Because that's all you got to hide.
Also, we have a tip of the week. We're going to let people have a tip of the week this week, Jill. We're not going to let them have the mobile news that's going to change their lives forever. We're not going to let them have gaming, which is one of the greatest
change their lives forever.
It'll change their lives forever.
Which is it's a life-changing game changer. You know.
Yeah.
Yes,
but
it is.
we will let them have a tip of the week, I guess. So let the people have it, Jill.
Okay, so our tip of the week is to check out OWASP, OWASP, or the Open Worldwide Application Security Project, is a cool nonprofit foundation that works to improve the security of software. Their programming includes community-led open source projects, including code, documentation, and standards. They have over 250 local chapters worldwide, tens of thousands of members, and industry-leading educational and training conferences. And their projects, tools, documents, forums, and chapters are free and open to anyone interested in improving application security. Even if you're not going to join or get into cybersecurity like Ryan is, they maintain lists of the top 10 most critical security risks to web applications and are a valuable resource for keeping up with security trends. Check out our show notes for the links. It's owasp.org/www-project-top-10/.
And if you don't want to get stung by cybersecurity situations, you can go to OWASP. See what I did there with the sting?
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gosh. Unbelievable.
Good one. There's Michael's dad joke for the episode.
Good job, Michael.
It has
got
to
that
be
in
done.
there right before the end. Right before the
It
end.
has to be done.
And what's really cool about OWASP is I found out about my local chapter of OWASP Los Angeles, because of their presence at local events like the Southern California Linux Expo and DataCon LA, where they've had events and talks. So that's how come I knew about this organization. And they are, the local one is very active, and they have in-person monthly meetings as well. I get their emails every month because I signed up.
Yeah. Well, they have some really cool security projects as well that you can download and play with. One of them is called Juice Shop. And when you host Juice Shop locally, probably, it is basically a super vulnerable website. And it's vulnerable to things like SQL injection. It's vulnerable to brute force attacks and other stuff, so that you can test out how these type of hacks and things work in real life. So they have a lot of cool projects and fun things that you can do there on their site that they host as well. So I want to make sure everybody was aware of them, because I had some fun hacking the Juice Shop myself. I was able to change prices, break in and find people's orders, and get their addresses and other stuff that hackers would do there. So very cool stuff. All right. Well, a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching, listening, however you do it, to Destination Linux. We love your faces. And you can come join us on our Discord, where there are not botnets waiting for secret commands. Or are there? Depending on what you type. You never know. Unless you go to techdigital.com/Discord.
There are a bunch of people in the Discord chat server that have the name bot attached to them. They're people. I don't know why.
Yeah.
They're there, though.
It could be this bots waiting for commands.
Who knows? It could be. But if you would like to find out for yourself, you can go to techdigital.com/Discord. And if you want to support the show, because we would also like funding, and and finding sponsors is hard for podcasts too.
By the way, go to Sandfly, go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly, and please support our sponsor. That's what keeps us alive. And Sandfly is awesome. So we're asking you to go to something awesome to support us. Like, why wouldn't you? What is your problem? Really, what is your problem? Why aren't you going there right now?
Why are you the way you are?
Who do you think you are?
How dare you not go to Sandfly?
What destinationlinks.net/Sandfly right
That's
now.
probably the weirdest ad part ever. But just real quick, for those who are curious, like if we only have people on as sponsors that we like their stuff, it's not like we've had plenty of people asking to be sponsors on our show.
VPNs, especially.
Tons of VPNs. In fact, we've had tons of Windows-only programs that wanted to sponsor our show. And that happens like once every couple weeks or so. That's like 100% exclusive Windows. Like they're like, oh, we support all sorts of different operating systems, XP, Vista. Like what?
Windows loves Linux.
Anyway, if you'd like to support the show,
Linux.
supposedly, if you'd like to support the show, and you can go to tuxdigital.com/membership and become a patron. You get a bunch of cool perks like. You can you watch the show live. You can get unedited episodes of the show. You can check out the merch discounts that we have. There's so much cool stuff. Oh, speaking of merch, that's right. tuxdigital.com/store.
Why aren't you going there? What is your problem?
Why aren't you going?
I'm looking at you. You right there. Stop.
What is your major malfunction?
First of all, put on some pants. Second of all, then go to our tuxdigital.com/store, please. Thank you.
This is. We're not. If you're listening and you have pants on, we're not yelling at you. We're not giving you. It's the people.
I don't have pants on right now, listening to the show. How dare you?
Anyway, so go to tuxdigital.com/store to pick up all the cool merch. We can maybe have a new shirt that says "I have pants on," and no.
I watch Destination Linux with pants on. Will be a new shirt.
Exactly. DL with pants. And there's also, you get hats, t-shirts, mugs, hoodies, and so much more. tuxdigital.com/store.
And make sure to check out all the amazing shows here on Tux Digital. That's right. We have an entire network of shows to fill your whole week with geeky goodness. Head to tuxdigital.com to keep those Linux penguins marching. And make sure to watch Michael Tennell's channel. He's been putting out lots of videos. Not just Twill, but lots of little videos.
All right.
Yeah.
And they're all
awesome.
Fantastic. They are probably one of the best videos you've ever watched that has been made by
I got to
me.
tell you this real quick, and then we'll end the show. So speaking of creating content, before I went on my trip, I recorded this amazing video. Well, when it comes out, you'll see it will be just a tribute, because what I did is I did a bunch of B-roll footage, right? It was amazing B-roll footage on a brand new Canon camera that I have. And when I went to copy those files over into a folder, I used the cut command instead of the copy command. So I cut them from the camera thing and I copied them over. Well, somehow for the first time in I don't know how many years, the paste over the files were corrupted. And so one file came in, but all the rest of the B-roll footage was corrupted and could not play. And so I went back to the camera, and of course, because I cut instead of copied, they were all gone. So I lost all of that work, and there is no video. And that is how video creation works sometimes. And I know you know that,
you
Michael,
learned
the pain of
your
that.
lesson. Always make copies.
Yep.
Well, he knew he was trying to make a copy. He clicked the wrong. He was in such a hurry. He clicked the wrong shortcut, and that's what did it. That's what I'm guessing.
Yes, it was. That's right.
We've all done
proof.
that.
Yeah, this is a fantastic proof that we are not always the best examples of how to do things.
In fact, do opposite of what we do. You know.
Yeah, usually.
Except Jill.
Yeah.
Years
Except
ago,
for Jill.
I had done that
Jill if you want.
once, but I did have a backup on floppies, so that's what saved.
That's my problem. I don't have a floppy disk drive, Michael. If I had a floppy disk drive,
100%.
it would have solved it.
If we had floppies, we would never have these issues with storage and stuff. Yeah.
All right, everyone, have a wonderful week, and remember, it's just about the destination. Thank you.
What? That's not the sentence we say.
It's not? Oh.
It's not.
Everybody have a great week, and remember, it's just about the journey.
That's also not the sentence we say.
All right. It's been a week, Michael. I'm a little rusty.
You are a little rusty. I can tell.
Let me try it one more time. Everybody, have an okay week, and remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
I mean, you got like there 90%.
Yeah.
I guess we could be okay with it. You know what? One more time.
It's good enough. All right,
one more time.
Everybody, if your week isn't wonderful, who cares? Because the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Okay, I think the one before was better.
It was a little
That's
better,
good.
yeah.
You should have cut then. Now it's just going to progressively get worse. You know what?
I think we're going to leave it there. We're going to move on. We're going to end the show. We're going to see you next. We're going to see you all next week, except for Ryan.
You won't
He's
see
not.
me.
He's not going to be here next week, and he's going to get rusty again. So the week after that, who knows how he's going to end the show?
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows what will happen? See y'all.
See you next week, everybody.
Love you all.
Most of you.